Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Three in the Box. I'm Bill Schultz here with Josh Berger, Alex Johnson, and Nikki Dwyer. We are back for season 2, baby. How we doing, everybody?
Hey, I'm doing
Great
well.
to see all your faces again.
Good to see your lovely face too, Bill.
Oh, Josh,
Yeah.
did you miss me?
I did very much so.
The truth is, we all like each other, and we talk to
Yeah,
each
we
other
do.
on our hiatus too. But tried to take a little break from formal podcasting. Berger, what'd you do this summer? What you been up to?
Oh man, what did I do this summer? I was busy working with my business. That I started with media conversion. And just being a family man. That's pretty much all I was doing. Yeah.
Sweet.
Right on.
Mm-hmm.
Alex, what's going on in your world, dude?
Well, we did a whole big move from Florida up to Virginia.
Wow.
As everybody knows at this point, active military, so I had to transfer. We were down in Florida for 5 years. Now we are here in Norfolk, Virginia, just so we could bother Nikki Dwyer.
Love
And
it.
Nikki, what have you been up to?
Besides lending Alex Wi-Fi.
That's right.
Not too much. I did start school again, and I, similar to Josh, worked a lot.
Nice. That's
You
great.
two just hung out though, right? Nikki and Alex?
We did.
We did a little
did.
reunion.
Yeah.
Are we going to talk about that now, or are we going to talk about that later in
Sure.
this segment?
Yeah, talk about it now.
Nikki, you want to take the lead on that one?
Sure, we went to North Carolina to visit, is it the Thunders? Or
Yes, the
Thunder?
Carolina Thunder.
Ooh.
And we regrouped since their first clinic about a year ago, and they have a whole squad now, and basically just kind of redid some drills and a little bit of scrimmage action.
Yeah, and it was really cool because they have a really young squad, just a bunch of kids. They're just wide-eyed. It was cool. So I had the pleasure of going down there as the Eastern Regional Director. Nikki and her team, Tidewater, brought like how many from Tidewater? About 8.
We were at like 5 or 6, and then had a couple from the Vipers.
Right, and then the Central Virginia Vipers also came down. So they were nice enough to lend out their strike forces to the kids on Carolina, and as soon as they got in those chairs, they were just all over the court, doing spins, driving as fast as they could.
Love it.
I think some of the parents were more concerned than the kids were, wanting to turn down the settings and stuff. So it was cool to see. It's always great to see when people get in a strike force and play power soccer for the first time. It's so much fun. It's very rewarding.
It really is. I mean, I did when I was on the board the last 2 years. I did my fair share of clinics, and there was no better sight than seeing young kids putting them right into the strike force, and like you said,
Right.
wide eye. Like it's just like you could see that the whole world just changed in a split second.
Yeah,
and it was so much fun to see.
yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah.
I feel like it just instantly gives them like, oh wow, I can do that. Oh
Yeah.
wow, now they're just, and then they have the focus, and off they go on to do great things. So it's just cool to see. So
It really is.
very excited.
Not that any of you asked me, but on that note, the way I spent my summer, one of the ways I spent my summer was I actually got to coach. They weren't really a rec team, but I get to work with one of our local organizations in La Crosse, Wisconsin, called the Star Center, and they put on like a recreational wheelchair soccer program all summer. And so it was literally just like open to wheelchair athletes in their program could just like come, and I got to coach and show the game to a lot of folks. Not that I was recruiting or anything.
Right.
But got to spend some time with a lot of folks that had not played the sport before. Had some of those scaredy, folks that were like, whoa, what is this? In the strike force, we definitely put a lot of people in Ryan Nell's strike force this summer. But we've had a couple that were really excited about it, and we might see somewhere down the line. So I'm looking forward to that.
Okay. That's good. So the sport is growing.
It is.
Yeah.
That's all we could ever want and hope for.
Can't wait. Can't wait. Well, on that note, y'all, I mean, we were so excited to get back to this, and we have so many things coming up in the U.S. as far as power soccer going on. There's teams that are scrimmaging already. Lots of people are practicing. I think the vast majority of teams that I've talked to are practicing. But something that we've talked about doing for a long time, and this is kind of Alex inspired, but something we've talked about a long time is on this show, sort of breaking down the country's teams by region and looking at each region and talking about how things are going in those regions, what's happening, what's been happening, what kind of direction teams are headed in, and what kind of growth we're seeing in the different regions. So we're very lucky to have Alex, the Western Regional Director, or excuse me, the Eastern Region Director here. Josh, the former Western Region Director here. And we're just going to go through these regions. We've got a few secrets to share that a lot of folks might not know yet. I've spent the last week and a half catching up on all the hot goss. Thanks to those of you across the country who take my phone calls and text messages and keep me up to speed on what's going on. So I'm looking forward to breaking these down with you guys.
Okay, can't wait to hear this.
We'll start in the Southeast, and I'll let my buddy Alex Johnson take the lead on this conversation here. What's going on down in the Southeast region of the country in USPSA, Alex?
Sure. I mean, I think there's a lot of exciting things going on in the Southeast. I mean, if you want to start on the court where they left off last year, I mean, you've got a team that moved up to Premier Cup in Auburn Tigers, and they're led by Zach, who everybody knows throughout the country. He's doing great things down at the collegiate level, which is cool to see. So they're building up a great program down in the Southeast. I feel like there's a lot of different things that are going on within the Southeast, clinics, being able to get out there and play a lot of good power soccer. I think that area is growing, and I'm excited to see, what's going to happen going into the future. But as far as the teams in the region, I would say it's one of the smaller regions for now. It spans a huge geographical area, so there's nothing but potential for growth. I think once we get established a little bit more in that area, you'll be able to bring North and South together a lot more and really get some quality matchups going. So I'm really excited about the South. A couple shout outs to a couple other teams. I mean, Tidewater, they won the President's Cup. Auburn with their championship run, they won first place. A couple other teams in there. Sting, they finished 5th in champions. Shepherd 10th in champions. Lakeshore 12th in presidents. Brooks was 3rd in presidents. Sting Academy 6th in founders, and Central VA Vipers were the 9th place team in founders. So I think there's a good mix in the Southeast, and I just being there and seeing it all the time, I think the trajectory is going upward. So it's cool to see.
Well, and of those 8 teams, Alex, 3 moving up a conference this year. Like, that's kind of cool, right? I mean, Auburn's going to go up to Premier, Tidewater coming up into champions, and then Brooks, of course, going up into champions as well. I do have one major piece of hot gossip here in the Southeast already. You talked about Auburn, a team that won Champions Conference, going up to Premier with a new player in Evan Palmer this season.
Whoa.
So Evan making the transfer from Arizona. I talked to him last week. We exchanged some messages, and I said, "Is it true?" And he said, "Well, I'm here in Auburn, so it better be true."
Right. Yeah. But I mean, what a great opportunity. And this is what I'm talking about with, Zach and the program over there is you get an opportunity to get on scholarship. You have an opportunity to get a college degree. I think an untapped market that I would give Zach credit for getting into is the college market. And I think that's going to be a part of the growth of the sport as we move forward. So, really excited, just as the actual team for this upcoming season. Excited to see them all play together.
Yeah.
Evan brings a piece to the puzzle that's going to make them a very strong team going into the Premier Cup. So
Yeah, for sure.
that just makes the conference that much stronger. So,
And
Yeah,
just to
exciting
speak
stuff.
on like the growth of Auburn in that collegiate space, like you were talking about, Alex, like, you know, I've talked to some individuals about this, including Zach, but I think having a university program like that is incredible. But I also think that there's a way to sort of head in that direction without needing like a university to sort of, you know, fully endorse it. One of the things I think about is, you know, we've recently started a team here in lacrosse uh, in a town that has 3 colleges in it, right? And something I've talked to both a lot of community partners about and a lot of folks across the country in the power soccer communities, what about creating like scholarships to those schools, right? Like where an athlete that plays your sport can come in and be a part of that university community and have a team to play on because there's a team in the city or in the region, right? And I think that's just one example. That's like one idea that we're sort of thinking about here in Wisconsin that could translate to other areas that are going, well, we got colleges here, but I don't know how to start a college program, right? There's other ways you can leverage those partnerships, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think that's something that you could definitely build towards in the future and build within clubs all across the country. So yeah, definitely 100% in support of that. So.
Brad, well, we're looking forward to seeing what comes out of the Southeast. We'll head west, and Josh, how's it out there in California? What are y'all up to in the Western region?
Well, I mean, as you know, I am a former Western Regional Director, but the West, as you know, there is so many teams in the West. I mean, I can't even count. We probably got like 15 or 20 teams.
There's like 15 plus teams here.
Yeah, it's insane.
Right.
Can you count it, Bill?
Because we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My very quick count is 16 team, Josh.
Yeah,
we're
so
including Texas in the West with this one.
Yeah.
Right, because they fall in the region over there. Yes,
right.
Exactly. Yeah, so we got 16 teams, and I'm pretty sure there's another team on the rise as well. That's coming onto the scene pretty soon. But yeah, we got San Jose Flash. As you saw in our last episode, they finished third in the Premier Conference. They did a phenomenal job, and LA Galaxy finished sixth. It's crazy. I mean, and it's just so many teams in the West, and which is really great to see because, as we all know, we all want this sport to grow in the best way possible, and by doing that, it's to create more teams.
One of the things I see here happening, Josh, that I've always been a little bit jealous with the West is like, especially you guys out there in California are just like the frequency of events is really great. Like you've got some organizations that are like, let's play soccer every month, and because we're so far out west, let's make sure there's opportunities right here in the region so that we don't have to ask these teams to cross the country.
Exactly. I mean, like you said, we do, especially in the Bay Area of California. We got the San Jose Rockets. Not anymore. San Jose Flash, San Jose Steamrollers, the Golden State Ducks. You got the Gophers. I mean, we're all relatively close in proximity. Us being the furthest, 3 hours away.
Is Borp kind of in that area?
Sorry, Borp. I forgot to mention Borp.
Okay.
Yeah, Borp is all in that region. And so, you know, I think the Ducks and the Flash and Steelers, they play each other all the time because it's literally on the other side of the bridge.
I think that last weekend, like Flash and Duck had something. Flash Steamrollers and Ducks are already hanging out, I think.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, they're there to help each other out, and because they're both in a Premier Conference, and so I'm sure they're just picking at each other's brains a little bit, and because I think they want to finish. Their end goal is to probably finish at the 1-2 spot in the Premier level, and it's very possible that they could do that. And so I mean that's what we want to do. I know from talking to Sammy and Folia that the goal is to represent California at the highest level that our sport offers, and so we want to put California on the map, because
Oh, you're on the map.
Oh,
You're
we're
Yeah,
on the map,
I
but by
think,
number, yeah,
I
hear
think
ya.
one of the coolest things that you guys do out west, like Bill already touched on, is the constant games, the constant,
Yeah.
every couple weeks,
Yeah.
and so you're staying fresh.
Yeah.
It would be great to get to that point with the other regions,
Oh, for sure.
so there
Yeah.
could be steady play.
Yeah.
But
Well,
no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, I talked to some team when I go to nationals. I talked to some of the teams that are in the southeast, and mostly the southeast. It seems like they say, like, oh yeah, we don't start till January, and we don't really play all that. Like, what? January? Like, that's insane. Like, we
Some
start.
of them, yeah.
Yeah, we start like in November, and
Right.
and we're playing like every single month, anywhere from 1 to 2 times a month, on average once a month. But like you said, it's we have the we're blessed enough to have the capability of playing on a regular basis. And as you know, the more you play, the better you become, the more consistent you become. And so that's what we need to do with the Southeast, is to grow more. We got to get more teams out there, because we want them to play every single month and every 4 weeks, that kind of thing.
Right.
So make it happen, guys.
Well,
Hey.
and I think as we have a regional director and a former regional director
Yeah.
talking, I mean, that's the dream, right? Because in California,
Right.
it's the proximity of the teams that lends itself to the frequency of play,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
And that's when we say we want to grow the Southeast, we want to grow these other regions.
Mhm.
What we're talking about is the more teams in proximity to each other, where you can play every 4 weeks or every 2
Exactly.
weeks or whatever
Yeah,
it is.
right, right.
When you were talking about November versus January, Josh, I actually, like in the Midwest, having coached just in the Midwest, like I get a
Yeah.
little bit of heartburn, because I actually really liked, when COVID sort of shortened our season a bit.
It did,
And not because I don't want to travel and play soccer, but because I saw my players at the time being stretched really thin, having to travel great distances from November to June. And it actually almost became a recruitment issue for me as a coach. Like, it's hard to keep even dedicated players and families in a program that runs from November to, and because when you start talking about when we would play tournaments starting in November, we would start practicing in September. So now you're talking about 10 months out of the year where you're playing soccer and you're traveling and you're asking a lot of families. In our regions, you're asking a lot.
Exactly. And that's such a valid argument, because like people always ask, when I get new players on my team, the parents always ask, what is the number one question that parents ask? Where do you play?
Right.
Where are we traveling to? I said, well, thankfully, we got all these teams in California. We're traveling up and down the coast. That's not the case for the Southeast and the Northeast.
Right, or even Texas or
even
Colorado.
Texas, exactly.
They're just out on an island.
Exactly.
Colorado and Portland
in
are
their
way
own
out there.
region. Yeah,
Right.
Portland. Right.
Now, and in the Midwest, it's great. They got their center. Like, a lot of teams are pretty close to each other. And so, more than the Northeast, more than the Southeast. But that's such a, when you're recruiting, that's the one answer you want to be able to alleviate to the new parents.
I feel like two things that come up immediately is, how much is a strike force?
Yep.
And where are you traveling to?
How often? Yeah.
Right. How long is the season? Where are you traveling to? So
exactly. Yeah. And those are all valid questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
it is. And we'll talk later in this episode to tease this a little bit. Our second segment of this episode is with USPSA Vice President Brett Passmore. We're going to talk a lot about growing the sport in that segment, and that's what Alex is working really hard on. That's what our board is working really hard on. And that's, the West really sort of shines as an example of, Josh, I can think back to when I joined the sport even in 2018, and you joined like in 2014? Think about how think about how much the Western region has grown in
Yeah.
that time period. I
Yeah.
think that's a great example for Texas, for the Southeast, for even parts of the Midwest where we're a little more spread out. I mean, I think
Yeah.
it can happen if we work towards it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm just doing a rough estimate. I don't think since I started, there were 7 teams out of 16 teams that were not there when I started
Yeah.
playing.
Yeah.
And so in that 10-year span, we've gotten 6 or 7 new teams that are at legit competitive levels.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's incredible.
One thing, when we're talking about these regions, one thing that I've noticed just from coming out of the Southeast, so you're looking at the other regions, I think one of the greatest things that the West has brought out of everybody in the sport is the level of passing that they do on the court. I think has elevated the game for the rest of the league.
Yeah.
I remember going to nationals a couple of years ago. We got punched in the mouth immediately, and we're like, what is going on out here?
Yeah.
And it took us a year to catch up. So, the way that you guys are formulating how your tournaments are going, the way that you guys are going about the strategy of the game, that's what I love looking at these different regions is how everybody is evolving within their regions. And it's fun to watch, and it's cool to compete when we get on the national level. So
I appreciate you saying that, Alex. I mean, you're right. A lot of teams on the West has changed the way they pass and the way that they play because like the teams in the Midwest, they got some hard hitters and they got some hard kickers, and they play with each other for so long, and so we're trying to figure out on the West Coast how do we counter how do we counter that because they have a lot more experience in the Midwest than we do. So we're like, okay, let's change the way we play. Should we go more the European style of playing? And it seems to be working, like you said. I mean, you said you got punched in the mouth, and now it's like it took you a couple of seasons to catch up to that style. And I think it's not everybody has adopted that style, and I think you're gonna see that pretty regularly in the next couple of seasons.
yeah.
And I think when I came into the sport, just to sort of round off that point, when I came into the sport and was coaching, down in Founders and Presidents with the Wisconsin Warriors, we were down there, and I've talked about this before. We were down there with a little team called the San Jose Flash, and one of the things that was both fantastic and just absolutely enraging about my experience in the early days was like I was trying to sort of reinvent strategy at those levels, and the Flash was doing it better, right? Like, and that's what I appreciate about those West Coast teams is that they were not afraid, to your point, Josh, they were not afraid to do what they had to do to beat the style of play the rest of us were using, right? My first year in Founders, I had Annie Heathcote, I had Kenzie Damon. We just drugged the ball. We just ran it up and down the floor. And these guys went, we're going to have to compete with this. How do we do it? And we started seeing that passing even in Founders and Presidents. And pretty soon I'm going, this ain't going to work. We got to come up with something different. And it really did change the game. And now you're looking at, why are they third in Premier? And it's not just Flash, but they're a great example of this. Why are they third in Premier now? Well, it's because they weren't afraid. They said, we got to find a way to win this at this game and to excel over these teams that play differently. Let's play to our strengths. And the whole Western region has adopted that mentality. And you see it in every conference now.
Yeah, you do. And like, it's because of the internet. That's what helped it, because 2017 was the World Cup in Kissimmee, Florida, I believe. And that's when, because that was the first World Cup Strike Force World Cup.
Sure.
When we saw what England can do, France, and I think it was those two, everybody was in awe of the playing style. And we're like, oh my gosh, we could do that? We could do that with our chairs. We could do the 2-touch. We can pass like with accuracy. Like, what are we doing? We got to get on it like right now. And so it was clearly inspired by that. And I don't think we can ever thank the World Cup enough for that because it changed the product of our sport forever.
Yeah.
All
That's a
right.
good assessment.
Enough about you Californians. Let's
Yeah.
talk. Let's talk about the Midwest, baby. Let's
Midwest?
just allow
Yeah.
me to frame the Midwest for you, gentlemen.
Mm-hmm.
Of the top 5 teams in the Premier Conference this year,
Yep.
four from
Mhm.
the Midwest region. Minnesota Shockwave, Turnstone Flyers, RHI Sudden Impact, and Minnesota Northern Lights, all top 5 in the Premiership this past year. We saw
Well-deserved.
Dassus Cyclones, a team that none of us thought would. We expected them to get relegated. Nope, they
Yep.
meddled. They took third in champions.
Sorry, guys. Sorry.
We heard from Brady
Right.
Kedge.
Sorry, guys.
We heard from Brady in our last episode last season. They used that as fuel for the fire. We're going to see them in Premier this year. Aspo, a team that continues to surprise me.
Mhm.
Chicago
team.
Fire, a team that has way more potential than we've seen out of them. I think they're going to do crazy things in Presidents next year.
I agree.
Honestly. Minnesota United, a team that I can't stop talking about. I can't stop watching.
Yeah.
Guys, guess what? They're going to get better this year.
What?
They're going to get better this year. I'm going to call this. I'm going to call this so far. This is the biggest free agent pickup of the season. I'm going to say my Midwest boy Ben Enko coming back to us. He'll be on Minnesota United this coming season.
Whoa!
Pending league approval, of course.
Breaking news.
Right. Unofficial until official.
Unofficial till official. But I hung out with Ben in the great city of Minneapolis last week, and he and Katie Kenzie, coach of Minnesota United, are pretty excited about that. So looking forward to it.
Look out, world.
Because they are a tough squad. All right.
Alex knows.
I know I ranked them low. Man, they made me sweat so much in that third place game, but they played phenomenal. And with the addition of Ben, like they got to be one of the favorites now. So
shoot, I got to play them again at Nationals.
An embarrassment of riches for Coach Katie Kenzie and Minnesota United. That team just keeps getting better and better. And not to take away from what they're doing because they got promoted on their. Well, they will be one of the top teams in Presidents.
They were very close to getting promoted. Yeah,
they're very close to getting promoted.
Yeah.
But certainly a team that is going to compete for that this year.
They got a target on their back for sure. I mean, they're the next team to move up.
I'll give a spoiler. I'll rank them higher than 8. That's for sure.
And then of course, just some of these other teams, CB Hooligans. That's a squad that's been together forever. We're going to see them a little bit better this year, of course. Henry County Hotshots. I don't know what's going on with Henry County. I heard a few things, but nothing official yet. And then these Michigan teams, guys.
Unbelievable.
Mary Freebred and Motor City Eagles just took down a Founders Conference last year. One of the best games at Nationals was that championship game.
It really was.
Where there was only an overtime goal between them. I mean, that was a great match. And those two teams will be back better than ever in a crazy good President's Conference next year.
I'm scared to play them. Really am.
I hope you don't sound like this in practice. Like I hope you're
not at all. Let's go, guys. Let's go.
Right.
To play all these teams.
So
it's a good team.
So Bill, let me ask you this. So we kind of frame some of the other regions for certain aspects. When you look at the Midwest Conference, the first thing I think of is tons of experience and tons of chemistry because a lot of teams have played together for a long time. How do you kind of see that region?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we see all these other regions and we talk a lot, right? We talked a lot in the West and in the Southeast already about like what's changed. In the Midwest, it's like what stayed the same, right? Who's been able to keep their pieces in place? And at the top of that list is Minnesota Shockwave, right? Why have they not lost a match in, 37 years or whatever it's been? It's because they got the same group of guys, right? They got the same group of national team players. It's not all guys, let me be clear. They got some great women on that team as well. Like they've got a core group that just does not break up. They got a coach that has been there forever. and they're fine tuning themselves,
Yeah.
and it's reflected in other teams. You see it in the Turnstone Flyers. You see it
Right.
in Minnesota Northern Lights, right? You see it in these core groups of teams that have been together, and as far as I know, are staying together. And guys, we saw RHI sudden impact, right? We couldn't
Yeah.
this time last year. All we could talk about was Michael Archer, right?
Yep.
Michael Archer
Yep.
coming back. Michael Archer
Yep.
coming back.
Right.
We had to shut ourselves down, boys, or we would have been talking about Michael Archer for an hour and a half on this
Yeah.
podcast. But we turned the microphones off. We're talking about Michael Archer. Another year, right, of
Yeah.
that team getting better with
Yeah.
Michael still on it,
Right.
and that other group, you look at Jordan, you look at Natalie, you look at Lexi, that group's been together for how long, Moises? They've
Right.
been together for how long? That
So
hasn't
long.
changed. So in contrast to these other regions that grow and change, I feel like for the biggest and best teams in the Midwest, it's what has stayed the same. And you also see it in teams like Minnesota United. You see
Yeah.
it in teams like CB Hooligans that have been a little lower in the conference rankings, but there's still these core groups of players together that
Right.
how much better are they going to be? How much time in the gym have they had? And what are they going to look like when they show up to that first tournament?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
when I think of the Midwest, I mean, like Midwest is power soccer mecca. That's
Yeah.
literally what it is. I mean, because
The
like
OGs.
Yeah,
because
the OG
we have
region,
all
for sure.
alluded to the fact that these players have played with each other for so long, from little kids to adults, to having full-time job, living independently, getting married, having kids. I
Right.
mean, it's the togetherness cannot be overstated enough. Like that, it helped when you played with each other for 20+ years.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I don't want to draw too much attention to this, but Sudden Impact finishes 4th in the Premier League. Now we're really hot on the Flash.
Yeah.
Shockwave are doing what they're doing. Didn't they eclipse like the 100-win mark?
I think they're getting
Probably.
close. I think they're getting close.
Yeah. So, I mean, is there a little less, spotlight on Sudden Impact to,
I don't know.
shake things up?
Listen, I don't know those. I'm not going to lie and say I'm best friends with all those guys on Sudden
Yeah.
Impact, but if
Right.
I know them at all, and I think I know at least their competitive spirit,
Yeah.
like there's nothing they want more than to be back in that top 3 conversation.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I think they're disappointed that they weren't. And
Yep.
if you want to say I mean, yes, we saw those 3 teams, right? Shockwave, Flyers, and Flash
Yep.
solidify themselves as top 3 last year. And we said
Yep.
it at the end of the season. They did enough, and we're confident, like we can say it, they proved it. But if you think what team I don't want snapping at my heels, it's
Yeah.
Sudden Impact. And they're gonna be chomping at the bit to get a hold of any
Yeah.
of those 3 teams this year.
Yeah. Well, then
I would
you
agree.
I know we're gonna talk about this in a future episode with
Right.
with our ranking episode, but now you brought up Turnstone. The goalie has just retired, and so I'm Tiffany Labus.
Tiffany Labus, yeah.
Yeah, I draw a blank on her for a second. You wonder how the team is gonna work after she had left. So I'm very curious to see what's gonna happen with the Midwest now.
Right.
I remember talking to David, at the it was literally after the championship game. I
Yeah.
think we had David on and just sort of
Yeah.
talking to him both on camera and off.
Mhm.
He was not. I mean, they love Tiffany. They appreciate what they had in Tiffany,
Yeah.
and we've all seen Tiffany for years do
Yeah.
incredible things back there. But
Mhm.
I know that they're not worried. I know
Yeah.
that Turnstone is confident in some of the pieces that they have
That's great.
that they've been grooming, and so that is exciting for me as a spectator to
Yeah.
be
Right.
like, oh, what do they have coming up at the pipeline?
Yeah.
That they're not worried. That
Yeah.
excites me.
Well, that, and what about the growth of David Dowling? I mean, if people didn't know who he was when they went into that international game, they should know
Yeah.
who he is now.
Yeah.
He was
Sure.
playing out of his mind. I mean,
Oh, he was-
I know to him, he's probably thinking yo, I've been building to this moment for
Yeah.
however long, right?
Yeah.
This is just another day. But
Yep.
I think to the outside viewer, it was wow, okay, he's like taking control of this game. So
Yeah, he was.
yeah, I mean, how much confidence does that have to give him, knowing that, hey, I can do this on the international stage, so
Yeah.
I definitely can do it on the domestic stage. So
For sure.
maybe that
Sure.
gives him a push, a boost to go upward in the Premier Conference. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, guys, we got one more region to talk about. We're getting there as far as time. We want to get to our interview with VP Brett, but the one that we leave sort of this one for last unintentionally, but a region that to me just is up and coming and almost like having a resurgence now is the Northeast. And
Yeah.
they're sort of led by the CNY United group, and we've
Yeah.
had our buddy Peyton on the podcast a couple of times to talk
Mhm.
about this. But I also want to give a shout out to Rich Phillips from NEP, who is kind of my guy who keeps me informed of what's going on up there. And
Yeah.
I reached out to him to kind of talk a little bit about the Northeast. And we'll be frank, we know the least about this region, right?
Yeah.
But they're excited, which makes me excited. And seeing them bring 6 teams to nationals last year, and all 6 of those teams sort of perform at or above the expectations that they had for themselves, that was
Yes.
exciting to me.
Mhm.
And some of these teams, like you think about Vermont with Zach Schmall and how great they've done as far as like keeping that program and injecting new blood, but continuing to sort of an NEP, with their 2 teams showing up. We've seen not only CNY, but also Boston Breakers up in the top 2 conferences of our sport
Yep.
for a long time. This is a region that gets underlooked, but
Yeah.
it's a
I think
region
so.
that has been
Yeah.
around for a while. They
Yep.
have a great thing going up there. They too are always having tournaments and traveling amongst each other. And we're seeing now like new life and young players getting injected into some of these teams.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I think. I mean, from the southeast, we go up. We try to get to the tournament in Virginia, so we see some of the northeast, and they have some very strong teams. Starts at the top with CNY United. They're doing great things. NEP is such a tough squad to play against, and they're young and they're hungry,
Mhm.
and they're. I think. Going into this next season, they can do some damage too. I mean, they finished 4th in the champions, so those top 3 teams are out of the way.
Yeah.
I think they have a great opportunity there.
They're
I
knocking on the
think,
door.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Vermont finished very high in their conference,
Mhm.
which was good to see. I just think as a whole, they're a very strong area, and I think to your point, Bill, is they might get underlooked a lot. I know a lot of those guys, when we ranked them, they're coming back to us like, I think you guys are ranking us a little low here. And I think in some of those cases that proved to be true, right? So,
Especially with NEP Wildcats, I think we had them
mhm.
mostly in the bottom half of champions.
Yeah.
They finished 4th, but like you said, with some of those other teams out of that conference, I mean, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in a champions conference this year.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Sure.
I wouldn't be surprised if they make a run and end up moving up. But
Yeah.
time will tell. There's a lot of soccer to be played, which is great because it gives all these teams up there motivation to go at each other for the whole season and then go to nationals. And that's the best part of all this is no matter what conference you're looking at, when all those teams mash up together, it just makes for some great power soccer. So
Yeah.
very excited about that.
And just guys, to bring it back and sort of put a big bow on this whole discussion, as we talk about regions, like the Northeast to me is a great example of like a region that's rife for growth too, because you've got population centers in here, right? Like you've got Boston, you've got New York, you've got all these Northeast like coastal areas that, we're going to talk to Brett Passmore here in just a minute about some numbers around the number of power soccer players in this country versus the number of potential power soccer players in this
Yeah.
country. Is this Northeast region where we see, 6 conference teams as we, classify them? Isn't this a region that's just sort of ready to burst in terms of like opportunity for more teams and more players
For
to
sure.
get involved?
Absolutely. I think if you grew this thing out over the next 5 years, I would guess that this would be one of those regions of the country based on population. Like, a lot of people live in the Northeast, so
Yeah.
I would think this would be a prime area to add on teams. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what the future holds for these guys. So
For sure.
I'm excited. And you know what? You know what's crazy? It is September 18th. We are 3 months closer to nationals already. I'm ready, baby.
National
Josh has got
Let's
one
go.
of those, what do you
Chomping
call
on
it,
the
like
bit.
a advent calendar. He's got
Yeah,
the chocolate
pretty much,
every
yeah.
day
He gets
for
a
the next
chocolate.
8
chocolate.
months. Yeah, right on. No, I feel you. I'm looking forward to it. It won't be too long. We'll be doing rankings, but hey, before we even get to that stuff, we got international competition to get excited for right here on U.S. soil. Come on back for episode 2, and we're going to talk all kinds of copas, all kinds of Team USA. In the meantime, guys, we're going to have a chat with Brett Passmore, Vice President, USPSA. He was so kind to join us. A great conversation. Brett's kind of new blood in our organization and is coming at things with a new, fresh perspective that I think a lot of us are excited about. So excited to get to that conversation. We'll take you there now. Alex and Josh, thanks for coming back, being a part of this with me again. So great to be back here with you and Director Nikki, who's hiding somewhere in this black area down here. Thank you as well for coming back, Nikki, and being a part of this with me again. And thanks to all of you out there, and we will see you for episode 2.
Hey, everybody, we have Brett Passmore here, the VP of USPSA here, joining with us on this segment. Brett, thanks for coming on our show.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Of course. Alex, you got a question, don't you?
I do. So, Brett, how were you first introduced to power soccer, and what was your journey through the sport prior to your official role with USPSA?
Yes, sir. Well, my daughter started playing in 2014. A friend of hers, Allie Funk, invited her to a game, and it was an exhibition game between the Houston Dynamos, the local MLS team, and the Houston Fireballs, our team. And watching the Dynamos in the soccer chairs try to compete with our athletes in our soccer chairs was just way too much fun. And she was hooked as soon as she saw it. And as soon as she started this, that's when I started. And so I've been a part of Houston Fireballs since 2014. I've always been the equipment and logistics guy for the organization. And as we've grown a little bit, matured a little bit, also a board member and manager with Diane and Amy.
Sweet.
That's great. I have a question for you, Brett. What was your motivation for becoming VP of USPSA?
Well, honestly, I wasn't looking to become VP of USPSA. Yeah, this was an interesting journey for me. Back at the beginning of this year, Steve Everett reached out and said, "Hey, we have an opening," and he believes that for whatever reason, he thought I had skills that could be helpful to the organization, and have I ever considered being a board member, vice president, or anything? And I told him honestly, no, I've got plenty to do down here, and quite frankly, I looked at this type of board membership. I've never been on a sports board, right? And I always thought athletes need to be in these positions, people that play the sport. Even our governing documents talk about this as an athlete-led organization. And so I didn't think I had a lot to contribute, and I respectfully declined and said, thank you, I appreciate it. I'll think about it, and maybe if something comes up. And then, as Steve does, about a month later, he reached out again. He said, Brett, have you given any more thought to it? And I had, but I didn't tell him that part yet, right? He said, there's some things that I've seen you go through and worked with you on, and people talk about some things, and I really think you need to be here. But he wasn't fully opening up and telling me what his thoughts were, right? And I told him, you know what? Give me a little bit of time. Let me talk to Amy. Let me pray. Let me see if this is something that I may be able to contribute in. And again, I have work to do down here in Houston, Kirsten to take, to do all the things we do with her. I just wasn't sure of it. And then by March, when he reached out again, I told him, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do this. Help me know what's going on. Where are we at? Uh, and it dawned on me that this is not an athlete position in the sense of it has to be a player in this, because he expressed to me the composition of the board as it is. We have Alex, right? A coach and a father. We had, dadgummit, my mind slipping me. He was giving me some examples of other previous board members that they weren't athletes and they were successful in their job. And he said, besides, I have something else I want you to do. And it turned out it had to do more with unblocking some of the systems we had in place here, kind of unpacking some of the issues that have been queuing up in the organization. And so these are things that I have skill sets in. And he and I had talked about what I'd done with my businesses and the nonprofits I work with down here. And that's what he had in mind. Those are the things he saw. And so when I realized what the actual need was, it was a no-brainer. I said, okay, I'm in. I'm here to serve, and I'll do whatever I can do.
Yep. Yeah, Steve is very good at that. Yeah, he won't let you say no.
He has a vision, right? And he was very
Yep.
persistent. I'm glad, though.
Exactly. He did the same thing to me. Alex, you had something?
Oh no, I was just gonna say I think that I think it's great having you on board. I think you bring a unique skill set that I don't think a lot of people have brought that skill set to the table necessarily in the past. I think coming from that world of process and whatnot is extremely helpful for getting the organization more organized.
Right.
I think it was something that was much needed. I'm glad that you were able to come on board, and we're already starting to see, some of that unfold, which is great to see. I think it opens a lot of opportunity for athletes, families going into the future. So that's awesome.
Yeah, thank you for that. You get to see some of the background stuff already that I can't quite share yet, but we have some really neat stuff coming up.
Okay. Well, stay tuned, everybody.
Dude's full of secrets over here.
And I think, Brett, you were thinking about the Russos earlier. You were blanking on the name. I think you were thinking about the Russos.
Yep, that's correct. The Godfather. Yep, and the family.
Exactly.
The royal family, I guess we could say.
Yeah, really. Oh man. Okay. Who's got the next question? Oh,
Alex.
So, Brett, how do you balance your role on the board with your involvement with Houston Fireballs, as well as your personal and professional commitments?
Yeah, this is a fun one. Yeah, things have changed, and so it's actually a really good question, because it's important that you understand that, because my wife and I we own businesses down here in Houston, actively running, engaged, doing that work, right? A daughter with special needs that requires, not 100% of my attention. Amy is her primary caregiver when she does need help. She's so awesome on her own without my help, but still, expectations are there, right? And then last month, Tracy Mayer came up to me and asked if I would be part of Team USA on their coaching staff. And so there's a lot of things. Yeah, they add up, right? And so after Tracy talked to me about that, I was talking to Amy, and I made the decision to step away from our businesses down here in Houston. And at this time, I've handed over all of my day-to-day responsibilities to her and to other people in the organizations. So I am 100% full-time with USPSA right now. I'm volunteer, obviously, but the kind of work that I'm doing, the things that we need done, they necessitate a lot of focused attention. And the only way that I'm able to do this properly is if this is the number one thing that I do. And so that's what I'm doing right now to help balance. When it comes to balancing, there's no way I could do my other jobs plus personal attend things plus Team USA coaching plus USPSA. So the only logical conclusion I had is to hand over to my wife the things that I was doing in the businesses, hand over to other people the operational components, and I'm here to serve the organization.
Wow.
Sweet.
Well, thank you for what you're doing for the sport already. I mean, you just joined, and you're already, like I would say, you're helping with the organization, and now just
Mhm.
new news. I didn't know about this that you now
Yeah,
part of
breaking
TNSA.
news.
That's awesome. Breaking news, everybody.
So what does that role entail for you?
As far as the vice president's role, I've got a number of projects that I'm working on, plus an overarching project to help us make sure that we are fulfilling the mission and the purpose of the organization. Because ultimately, someone tells you, "Hey, can you help unblock the system?" What does that really mean, right? What is blocked? What are the goals? What's happening? And it took months or more just to figure out what's going on. And we have a pretty simple organization. We're all volunteer led. We're all trying to paddle in the right direction. At least we hope we were, right? So a lot of this time was just spent discovering, investigating, interviewing. A number of the viewers of the podcast will know that I have talked to them probably about some of my concerns, some of my thoughts, gathering data. And so answer your question, right now, a lot of research. Right now, making sure that I understand where our strengths are as an organization, where the risks might be, right? And trying to get some consensus. Are these the risks? I'm not a sports guy, right? I've never played sports. I come from the organization side of things. I'll administrate, I'll organize, I'll help build processes, but I don't play the game. And so sometimes we need to have that lens objectively outside of ourselves. And so I'm spending time talking to players, talking to coaches, talking to reps, talking to people outside the organization entirely about nonprofit governance. And so it's a lot of work, and we've got a tremendous organization. I just want to see it get better.
Sure. And
I
then I
think it
guess
shows how dedicated that you are, that you were willing to like take things off your plate and then also delegate to other people.
I tell you, I was talking to someone yesterday about this, and we're talking about it's the outcomes, right? It is what I see that this sport creates. Um, I've seen my daughter's life transformed tremendously because of soccer. I've seen other athletes in the Houston Fireballs' lives transformed, where they are now a part of a community. They can plug in, they can do things that they never were able to do before. Whenever I come to Fort Wayne, my first one was 2019, I think, first nationals, and immediately it was family. There was nothing there in the way. And honestly, my wife and I adopted her when she was 5 years old. And up until then, she was 18 at nationals that time. Through 18 years, we'd never found a place like what we had inside USPSA in Fort Wayne. Transformative, absolutely. Yeah, I see the change in her life and our Fireballs' lives. But then I look across the courts with 400 plus athletes, right? 50 plus teams. Everyone's life is touched. And Nikki, how could I not? This is an opportunity given to me, and I tried pushing it away. And that was God telling me through Steve, we need to do something here. We have more to do, and we can do it better, and we can affect more people with these outcomes that you're already seeing. So thank you. But it's an honor and an obligation. I'm happy to do it.
Well, we appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's great.
So, how do Houston and other teams, kind of in a geographical situation like you, navigate the challenges of being one of only a few teams in their area?
It's tough. It's tough. Down here in Texas, we have 3 teams that are competitive, and there's Austin has a rec team they're building out. We hope to have them, more plugged in soon. Houston has a rec team. San Antonio has at least one. But if you've ever been to Texas, it's not like living in Rhode Island, right? I mean, San Antonio is 3 hours to the west, Dallas is 4 hours to the north, and we're in this triangle that's just everything is a far long way away. Before COVID, we actually had enough players and athletes and competitiveness. We could actually host our own tournament inside of our own program. It was kind of cool. Not ideal, but it was possible. So we have had tournaments down here in Houston. We hosted an international tournament in 2022, and we had lots of teams from our national sanction, but we also had Mexico come up, and we did another one at University of Houston where we had Mexico come up, and we had some other teams come in. San Antonio and Dallas have been real faithful to come to Houston, and we'll go to Dallas and we'll go to San Antonio at least once a year. All 3 of us will travel to one of these 3 cities, right? We are working hard to identify locations, trying to figure out where programs can be launched. But like everybody knows, there's a huge problem with barrier to entry to this sport, right? So starting a program can't just be, click a button and then you're done. There's a lot of work and there's a lot of fundraising, there's a lot of effort that goes into it. So we want to grow it. We want to find places that there's not currently a team that has the resource to be able to do it. Houston is huge, fourth largest city in America. We should have more athletes even in Houston, and we're doing what we can. But there's a lot of things to be addressed at higher levels that hopefully we can get to.
It sounds like you have a good plan so far.
We're real fortunate. We have a lot of good ideas. We want to get them activated.
Brett, what do you see? I know you alluded to, and you've spoke to some of these already in our conversation, but what do you see as the next steps for power soccer in the United States, and what's currently going on to sort of address those next steps?
Well, that's actually exactly what I've been doing, right? That's been the reason Steve brought me on board. That's why I'm working with my president to help fulfill his vision. He spoke to his vision at the social at this year's nationals. We want to see growth. Obviously, we don't want growth for growth's sake. Again, we want to see outcomes. We want to see changed lives through this sport. But fundamentally, we need to operate within the bounds of what we've been chartered to do. And so that being said, I had to kind of take a step back, Bill, and look at what does the Constitution say about us? What is our mission? What are our purposes? And I think at a fundamental level, I think the first thing we should be doing in this capacity is making sure the purposes we've been assigned to do, entrusted to do, is actually being done. If we do those things properly, then I think we're going to see a natural changes in programs, in leadership, in development. I think we're going to see all of these things that we use as indicators all increase just by focusing on the things we need to be doing. Alex has been through this with me before because he's on the board with me, but I have a quick little exercise. Bill, would you mind going through this with me right quick? It's real simple.
Sure.
All right, thanks. So once again, if I want to look at an organization and say, is there a problem here? If it is, how do I determine if it's a problem and what do we do to fix it? I go back to our Constitution. So our Constitution, I'm not going to ask if you can recite it from memory. I'm just going to read it to you. So we'll just start there. Is that cool?
Sure.
All right. Thank you. To provide persons with physical disabilities using power chairs the opportunity to play, learn, and compete in the sport of power soccer. High level. That is what our mission is, right? And it encompasses what we do. I would say, if you were going to write that mission, would you make any changes to that, though? Would you want to expand that? Would you want to rephrase any of that? And it's not a trick question because some of the things that I've heard from other people actually show up in the purposes, and I'm going to get there in a second.
You're putting me on the spot here.
No, I don't mean to do that. Let me clarify. That is not the goal. So I'm going to jump down because that does sound putting you on the spot. You're right. That wasn't polite. Well,
no.
No, I like it. I want to hear what Bill has to say.
I wish I had it in front of me. Read it to me one more time.
Yeah.
Read it to me one more time.
Yeah, absolutely. To provide persons with physical disabilities using power chairs the opportunity to play, learn, and compete in the sport of power soccer.
I think I would put the word grow in there somewhere, like expand or grow. I think I would also in some way define my geographical area, in this case, the United States. So I think those are the two things off the top of my head that I would add to that.
It's excellent feedback. And I think that goes right in. That's Article 2, the mission, right? Article 3 is our purpose. I'm going to read those to you right fast. And this is where I'd like you to help me because I'm going to put a number down. So, Bill, I'm going to read to you the purpose that we're assigned to do. And I'd like you to give me a number from 1 to 10. 1, we're not doing it at all. 10, we couldn't be doing it better, right? So the first.
If Steve Everett is watching right now, turn your volume down, Steve.
Okay. Fair enough. All right, number 1. Act as the national governing body for power soccer in the United States.
5.
Okay. Promote growth and participation at all levels, local, national, international.
8.
Establish standards for play, rules, training, competitions.
4.
Protect the athlete and team's interests. Yeah.
3.
All right. Last one that I have here. Oversee development through training, research, and technical innovation.
After my conversation with you last night, Brett, I'm going to give you a 7 on that one.
All right. Where we're at now, not where I'll. Okay. But no problem.
Yeah,
You got it,
yeah.
I know. Thank you. I understand what you mean. Give me just 1 second. I'm not very good at math here. All right. So 8, 6, 15. So, but seriously, on a serious note here, 14, 22. All right. So, 56 out of 100. What does that tell you?
Out of 100. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
We have
Go ahead. I
we
took
have
your
room to
scores,
grow.
1 through 10 on each of these. Your max was a 50, so I doubled each of your numbers, added
Got
them up.
you. I see what you're saying. Yeah, yeah. Mr. Numbers guy over here has got me. No,
56
I
out of 100. I mean, what does that speaks, right? That number alone, it communicates a lot, right?
Well, you got a hypercritical dude that you're asking too, by the way, so that we take that into consideration.
You want to know
To
something
put it-
really interesting? Your number is high compared to other people
Oh,
I've talked
wow.
to.
Okay.
And that's what I was
That's
about to say.
Oh.
Like,
Yeah.
you're right in
Your
the
numbers.
same frame as a lot of
The board landed on the same average, right, Alex? That's right where the board landed, huh?
Oh,
Yep.
interesting.
Yeah.
I appreciate
I
you
was much
sharing
more
that.
critical.
I think that's a cool piece to share, and I think that's
Yeah.
when you first asked me to be on the spot, I wasn't sure what you were about to show me, but I think that's a clever exercise. I really do.
I think it helps
Like-
frame it.
Right.
It shows us that we are doing some of the core pieces, right? But anywhere I've gone to school, 56 is still failing. We got to do better. There's no doubt about it. We
Yeah.
have to make changes. And I'm going back to our documents. How was this originally established? What were we entrusted to do? This is it. And my job, I'm working with my president, giving me direction that he'd like to see things move. We're in alignment that these are the things we should be doing, right? And this was important enough to me to make sure that it has my focused attention. I have got a 10-year horizon. And one of your questions that I think y'all were going to talk about is lofty goals, right?
I think that's your next question.
Is it?
I mean,
I
yeah,
have
it
paper here
is.
and I've lost order because it's all mixed up in the wind.
Yeah,
But
it's-
I'll let you ask the question because it's going to lead into this and it's important.
All right, so but my next question for you is what are your stretch goals as VP of USPSA, and what would you like to see happen that seems lofty?
Okay. I work with other nonprofits as both a fundraiser and board member and member supporter, various levels, right? Every nonprofit that I've worked with, we have what's called a BHAG. Does anybody know what that term is?
No.
Big, hairy, aggressive goal, right? It's just an ugly way to say lofty. All right.
I
So
like that.
I had to go through and build my big, hairy, aggressive goal for this. And my 10-year horizon, because that's where I'm looking at, right? My 10-year horizon is 5,000 athletes and 500 teams. Okay. Is that lofty enough?
I would say so. I like it.
It's one thing to like because it sounds good. Do you think it's possible?
Absolutely.
no.
I'm not going to put you on the spot because I would normally ask you, tell me how. But I'm not going to do that to you because that's kind of rude. I'm not going to do that because
I
it's tough,
appreciate it.
right? Nah, we're good. But we have some things that are pretty solidly easy to recognize, right? We have some easily recognizable issues to work on, and there's some that aren't quite so easy to recognize. But these stretch goals are possible, and with the right identification of issues, the right implementation of programs, the right amount of fundraising and process change, I have no doubt we can get there.
Amazing.
Did you
can't
Did you
wait.
say 10,000 athletes and 500 teams?
550. I mean, 5,500.
5,500.
I mean,
Okay.
still, that is definitely a lofty goal.
It's more than
Now-
8 per
10X.
team. Is all. It's more than
Now-
8 per team. Is all.
now-
I say.
I like that idea 100%.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, if that's in the realm of, hey, what's your lofty goal? It's definitely a lofty goal because that would take us to heights never before seen. So
Well, it's
Yeah.
kind of fun for an exercise here. Before I go into a market analysis, right? I look at this through a commercial lens, even though we're a nonprofit, my mind goes that way, correct?
Hmm.
So if you look at how markets work, and we kind of find out if we're going to deploy a new product, service, widget, whatever, we want to understand what kind of investment do we need to make, and what's possible market, what's the return we're going to get, right? We do the same thing when we look at what we're doing here. Not that I'm trying to get a cash return on this organization. What I want to
Hmm.
get, though, is athletes in this pipeline through the sport and get their lives changed. How many
Hmm.
are out there to do this? Um, but with that being said, I want to back up a second and look at the largest competitive wheelchair sport that I've found, and that's the NWBA. Wheelchair
Hmm.
basketball is by far the most well recognized, right?
Hmm.
You've asked someone on the street, what sport have you seen that wheelchair athletes participate in? They're going to say
Hmm.
murder ball or wheelchair basketball, at least around
Yeah.
here. That's kind of what
Yeah.
you hear.
Hmm.
The last thing that I've come across anyone ever answering is power soccer.
Yep.
And that's reasonable. I mean,
Hmm.
but if you look at the numbers and what we do, as far as so far how we've been able to get athletes involved, we're actually punching pretty far above our weight grade. And so I do want to speak to that. And it's going to be part of the market analysis, but I kind of want to hold off on that, guys. I want to talk about the punching above our weight grade in just a minute, but it's real impressive, and and we ought to be very proud of where we gotten. But obviously, if we're doing 56 out of 100, we got to do a lot better.
Yeah. I agree. I have one kind of off the top random question for you. So you saying that you want to get to 5,000 athletes, 500 team. Do you think at some point in the future in our sport, do you think it would be possible for us to get into the professional world of our sport?
You know, that's a great question.
It is.
Um, and I guess you need to look at first order and second order of how
Hmm.
this works, right? Um, Similar question can be asked because people talk about we'd like to have our own facility, our own training, our own camp, these kind of things,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And some organizations like nonprofits, their big, hairy, aggressive goal is going to be a building program. It's something they can point to and they get money in a bucket for and they can do, right?
Hmm.
But what good is a building for a building's sake, right? And do you need a building for 600 athletes, right? I'm just saying, if you have
Hmm.
5,000 athletes, what do you need when you have that, right? I'm not saying
Hmm.
get it all at 5,000. These things grow along with you.
Hmm.
But what you described, along with the buildings, along with other things, when you have 5,000 athletes, you have to have more things in place. You have to have
Yeah.
a facility. You have to have a headquarters. You have to have other venues, other aspects, other areas of play. You'll have a fully matured collegiate organization, right? You'll have
Hmm.
fully matured educational and development tracks. You'll have fully matured financial aid programs. These are
Hmm.
things that come with that.
Hmm.
So you set your goal out here, right?
Hmm.
You say, this is where I want to be. And then you build paths and programs to point you in that direction. And you get people outside the organization to come be on your board that can
Hmm.
write those checks that help move things forward. Money doesn't solve all problems, but I tell you, it puts a good down payment on them, right? We
Hmm.
can start doing things we couldn't do in the past. And so, whether that answers your question or not, I can't get into specifics of some of the things I'm doing, but
Hmm.
I've kind of let go of a little more than I should, but just know that yes, that this and all the above and more.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
I
I
like
think
it.
another thing. Sorry, go ahead, Alex.
No, I just said I like it. I like it. I like everything you're saying.
I think Josh, and not that you asked me this question, but this is a conversation I've had with Nathan a little bit too, and I think you and I have had general conversations around
Hmm.
this. Like when you start talking about like a professional or semi-professional division or however that would end up playing out in the future, you got to get eyes on the sport. And I know that like Brett, you're working on that indirectly a little bit. I know Nathan has a lot of really strong ideas in that direction. Like, and this is something that I've been screaming about since I came into the sport. Like, we have to find a way not just to market ourselves to sponsors, but also to market ourselves to an audience. And that
Hmm.
starts by selling ourselves as a competitive sport. And every disabled sport has this problem. We are a disabled sport, and we are, it is important that we present ourselves that way in order to bring in the sponsors. But it is also important that we bring in fans and
Hmm.
supporters. And the way to do that is to show them how competitive we are. Brett
Yeah.
Yeah.
just a second ago said murder ball. everybody knows what that is
Yeah.
because I mean, not everybody, but everybody that's seen that movie, everybody that's seen Wheelchair Rugby knows
Yeah.
exactly what murder ball is. I would argue
Yeah.
like rugby's more popular in our community in the United States than it is in like the general community, simply
Yeah.
because of that. You know, those guys put themselves out there in a way that we all recognize now, even like 15 years later. So
Yeah.
that, to me, if we're going to reach that professional level and we're going to start saying like, you know, people can support themselves by competing in this sport, that means fans. And how do we
Yeah.
do that?
Yeah. From my perspective, there's some things that I'm working on. I'm not at liberty to discuss right now, but I will say we are working
Sorry.
on. We have the same problems any other organization has, and we have some other ones with really unique twists to it. But one of our problems is communication. Okay. Every organization that I've entered and worked with at some point has had communication issues, and whether that's internal, whether that is first level, like ring one, which would be us to the reps, right? Ring two is to the team, three is to the fans, caregivers, those kind of things, right? So we have communication issues, different types with each of those rings we try to talk with. One of the first things that I implemented, and we're in the process of rolling out the generation one of this, is a media and communications department. We now have a 5-member volunteer staff that is focused all on communicating to our organization. And it's taken us about a month to get tools in place, process in place. We're going through some efforts as it relates to what do you want to call it, design language, right? The voice of the organization, that kind of thing. But the problem we have, what you identified, is no one knows and no one's being communicated to outside on that wider area. That's the ring 3 and ring 4 people. That's the ones that need to be the fans, the ones that will come to these events, the ones that can tell their neighbors, oh my God, did you see this? If we can get the right information, aka like what Andrew Heat has been working on with the documentary Power, right? You get the right information in front of people, I promise you, we are going to be moving hearts and moving minds and hopefully moving checkbooks so we can help do this better and faster. I can't share with you everything that we're working on, but trust me when I say that's on my radar, and I am working toward that goal. And I need people that understand this as well to work with me to be successful here. This can be a lot of volunteer work, and some of this work will be turning into non-volunteer stuff in the future. So I'll be reaching out to some trusted advisors and to some people that I've been introduced to, but we have a lot of work to do. And William, this is part of it. That's a huge piece.
Call me William, breaking out the big
I
one.
know, he's getting all serious on you. I
Sorry
love
about that, guys.
it.
I take.
No, you're all right.
I'm going to back off and say Bill again. There you go.
You're good. I thought my father was on the pod for a minute.
I didn't use your middle name.
No.
Oh, well, thank you, Brett, for all that information. That's great. I'm really excited to see where this sport is going to grow in the next couple of years, really.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
Now we got to get you reelected.
Yeah.
Reelected.
I never was elected. What are you talking about? I
That's
got to
true.
get elected. I was
you running up
dropped into
there.
the frying pan,
Yeah,
guys. What are you
That's
talking about?
true. That is true. But like I said earlier in the segment, I'm really glad that you're on board. I really think you look at things in a perspective that a lot of us don't, and I think it's only going to help our organization going forward. I think you're the right person in the right place at the right time to push us towards dreams that I think a lot of people have, and actually being on the ground and getting us there. Like I think all this is possible, and I'm really excited to see what the future holds.
Thank you, Alex. I appreciate that. My goal is to build systems, programs, a plan that can survive whenever I am gone, right? I don't need to be here for the next 10 years. I don't want to be unless that's where God has me to be. I want us to have the right leadership pipeline in place. I want us to have the right development systems in place for our athletes, for our coaches, for our leaders, for our education system to make sure that we are teaching the right things to the right people at the right place. All these systems go together along with financial aid systems and the other pieces that we're working on. So thank you. It's going to be great for all of the athletes and all of the team members and all of the parents and the fans. We just got a lot of work to do.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
Cannot wait.
So, kind of honing in on the board again, what do you want people to know about USPSA and its leadership? And are there any misconceptions that you think people have?
That's a tough one because I'd hate to throw a misconception out that they don't have, and now they have it, right? So you got to be careful with that. Uh, I think it's real important that people outside the board understand that the board is looking at the organization more as a whole. Like we're looking what our scope is, what we've been entrusted to do. Um, I use I use the term "I'm here to serve." Right? You've heard me say that more than once, and I do believe
Mm-hmm.
that. This
Mm-hmm.
is a service for me, and I'm proud to do it. I think the other thing that board members do is we're stewards. Um, we've been given this responsibility, right? And we're serving the organization, but we are stewards of the mission and the purpose of this to help move it forward. Does this make sense?
Mm-hmm.
In addition to that, we're solving these problems as a board,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very important that the organization realizes that this is not just something we play around and do here and there. Um, when we meet together, it's a serious time. We have to get things done. Yeah, we have a good time as a board, but we are discussing important information for our organization. We need to solve problems. So, what does USPSA version 2.0 need to look like, right? But not even that. How is Nationals next year going to come together? Who handles all the pieces of that? More than just the committee, right? The board is very busy to make sure everybody has what they need in the organization. A misconception, I think, would be board's not doing much, and it's completely wrong. You may not
Mm-hmm.
see the activities, and some of that's by design, but that's going to change. Zach Dickey is our marketing director. He is working with our president to start doing a message from the president at least once a month in a video podcast style format to communicate out to the organization. What are we doing? What's coming up? How are things going? We'll be doing some standardized communication around the premier level teams and their games and some marketing around that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, along with that, you're going to be seeing some other things the board is working on. And I think it's pretty exciting.
Love it.
Brett, not to put you on the spot, but like I've heard you say a few times in this interview, we can't talk about this yet. You'll be hearing about this
Sure.
soon. And one
Yeah.
of the things that Nathan and I really hyped on a live the end of last season was visibility. Just speak briefly, not to what those items are, but why those items are still behind the scenes.
Because the board hasn't approved them yet.
Okay.
Easy
Okay.
enough.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yep, easy enough. Like it.
All right. So this is our last formal question of this discussion. And Brett, I didn't know you 48 hours ago. You and I had a fantastic conversation yesterday on the telephone, where I think I asked you some tough personal questions, and you were wonderfully open with me. And it sort of inspired that discussion. Sort of inspired this question. There's a lot going on in the world right now, and we live in a country that's divided. And as vice president of USPSA, which is our national league, border to border, person to person, people from all walks of life, you talked before about outcomes, and we want these outcomes that power soccer brings to lives for everyone. How do we make sure as a national organization that every participant here that feels invited to USPSA, feels welcome, feels heard, feels represented, and feels safe?
Yeah, this is important. And when you were talking to me yesterday about it, really made me pause and reflect. And this is one of those things that I need to be able to understand that I don't know all the answers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm a very big believer in knowing where my strengths are, right? Some people call it your lane, where you perform in, right? I knew mine wasn't sport, but reason I'm making that comment is there are there are things that we're going to need to do to reach out to athletes, to program directors, to coaches. There are things we'll need to be able to communicate in such a way that people who are seeking will find us and not feel intimidated for any particular reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to have to be working on methods, policies, systems so we communicate properly, number one. Number two, defining how we present ourselves and make sure that there is no barrier to entry, whether it be financial, whether it be a perceptive barrier because they look at this and feel a little uncomfortable or whatever the case may be. Every single person listening to this podcast, at least from the sport, understands the value of this sport. we all need to be working together to figure out how do we communicate that properly? How do we make sure each and every one of us can tell the community around us, those potential competitors, this is where you'll have a safe home to be. Every single one of us does understand the value of that. And so, Bill, I don't know how to pull it off right here, but I do know between Three in the Box, the board, those listeners here who want to be involved, we're going to find the right communication style. We're going to move forward, and we'll probably have to evolve and change some of these methods over time. But the fact is, there's no way we're going to hit that lofty goal if there's any types of barrier to entry of any sort. We need to make sure that we are communicating in the right fashion. We are presenting ourselves in a professional yet welcoming way. We want to make sure that there's no social reason why they wouldn't join, a financial reason why they wouldn't join, whatever those things are, Bill. That's what I see. And I think we had the opportunity to get there.
Cool. Well, I really appreciate that. I appreciate you taking the time to respond to that and to all of our questions, and for taking the time to be on episode 1 of our second season. Thank you so much for being with us, Brett.
I love it. I'm really grateful to be here. Thank you for the invitation. And I'd like to follow up whenever it's appropriate and kind of do a pulse check on how we're doing. So whenever it's appropriate, I'd like to be a part of that.
We'd love to have you back. I got to ask you before we let you go. I got to hear you talk about those numbers I was picking on.
Yeah, you got it, boss. So again, I look at this stuff through a commercial lens. Some people don't quite realize why I do that. So when you do a market analysis, I told you a little bit earlier, you look at how many are there, what you can do. So Department of Labor and Statistics, along with some other organizations, give you some fascinating insights into general population and statistics. And basically what I care about when I was doing my research is how many people exist throughout the general population, because they don't slice it to the wheelchair population, either compete competitively or want to compete competitively in a sport. Nationwide, as of 2024, it was 10.8%. So I'm going to use 10% to make this real simple. All right. So what you were asking about was how many power chair users are there in America? DOL does track that, and it's 250,000 power chair users. And there's 3.5 million wheelchair users. And this is where I was alluding to punching above our weight grade. And the numbers can be interpreted in different ways, but I want to just mention to you the statistics. So I'm using 10% to be kind of simplistic here. I don't have a way to cut the data better because it's not being gathered now, but I think it's fairly reasonable to say 10% of the general population. Let's just copy and paste that down, okay? 10% wheelchair population, same thing for power chair population. Although an argument could be made, it's actually higher inside the wheelchair population, and I can talk about that some other time. That being said, there's 350,000 potential manual wheelchair users in America who want to play competitively. That's 10% of the strata, 3.5 million, right? Nation or worldwide, NWBA has 1,800 athletes. Okay. 200 teams. So do the math against 350,000 potential candidates. 0.05%. Okay. Look at our strata. 25,000 possible competitive athletes. 10% of 250,000, right? We already have 500 athletes out of that. Okay. It's a 0.03. We're almost twice as penetrative into our market as NWBA is already. People want to play this sport. Do you see what I'm saying? A lot more can play this sport. All I'm asking for of the 10% of our population, all I want is 20% of that 10%. Is that crazy?
Not crazy at
It
all.
doesn't sound crazy when you put it that way.
I don't think it's crazy. We got 25,000 individuals out there that would like to play competitively. And we have other competitive options with power chair, not a lot right now, but as far as I'm concerned, if we can find and win over 20% of that, we're going to have 5,000 athletes in 10 years. We can do it together.
I think we can. That's great. I love it.
We got this, guys.
Yeah. Wow.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Brett Passmore, Vice President, USPSA. Brett, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Y'all have a good night.
Hey, everybody. Bill here. I want to take just a moment and sort of round off a point on the last question that I asked Brett during our interview just now. I asked him a question about inclusivity in USPSA. And if you are a fan of this show and you follow Three in the Box on social media, there's a good chance you also follow me personally on social media. And if you do, you know that I'm pretty loud when it comes to things like politics. I think it's important. I think that the things going on in our country right now have a great deal of effect on our lives, especially as disabled people. And as a member of this league, you might also follow Brett on social media. And if you do, you know that Brett also feels passionately about things that are going on in the world. Brett and I don't agree on things. In fact, we don't agree on much of anything when it comes to politics and the issues going on in the country. But what we do agree on is growing the sport of power soccer. And as the leader and creator of a podcast that right now is really the only podcast that talks about this sport in the United States, and Brett as the vice president of the organization that oversees it, I think it's important to align on one thing. We don't have to agree on things. We don't have to agree on how to get things done. But one thing we do have to agree on is that this sport is for everybody. And I wanted to ask him that question to reiterate that point. And I think as I learn as co-host and one of the producers of this podcast, what it's growing to become. It's important for me to know where we stand, and that although I want to work with the leaders of this organization to advance the sport of power soccer in the United States, there may be times where we disagree. And one of the things that we have to remain aligned on across this sport as leaders is that this sport is for everyone. So I gave Brett the chance to answer that question. I'm happy with his answer to that question. But I also think it's important to say that we can't just communicate that we're inclusive. We have to create methods, procedures, and policies that also show that we are inclusive, that show that we are welcoming to everybody. To make a really bad wheelchair joke, we got to walk the walk and not just talk the talk. Our initial plan for this episode was to have Nathan Mayer, our newly elected national president, on the episode. Unfortunately, with scheduling and things, that just didn't work out. But I reached out to Nathan, and I asked him to answer the same question. I'm going to read you his answer now. To remind you, the question was this, and I'm just reading off my phone here. I said, Nathan, we live in a country that is as divided as ever. As president of USPSA, how do you make sure that every participant across the country feels welcome, feels heard, feels represented, as in safe, and is safe? Here's what Nathan said. I think the first step is acknowledging that people come to our league with different experiences, perspectives, and needs. In a country that feels divided, and there's a reason behind that, I genuinely think that is rooted in the lack of being willing to listen to those that might have a differing opinion. Of course, that isn't unanimous, but those that don't want to listen are often amplified. We have to be different. I want the USPSA to be a place where every voice matters, whether that's on the floor, off the floor, in meetings, or as a beacon of how we move forward. That means listening before leading. Every team has representation, but I want to go further, making sure athletes, families, referees, and volunteers all have direct channels to share their perspective. When people feel heard, they feel safe. As president, I see my role less about telling people what to do and more about creating space for dialogue. That means making sure conversations are open and inclusive, where every athlete, coach, family member, and volunteer knows that their perspective matters. Respecting differences isn't about everyone agreeing. It's about recognizing that our diversity of experience makes us stronger as a community. From there, my responsibility is to guide those voices into fair and transparent decisions. When people understand how decisions are made, even if they don't always get the outcome they hope for, they can still trust the process. And that trust is what creates safety. Not only physical safety on the court through rules and equipment standards, but also emotional safety off the court, where people feel valued, respected, and supported. That foundation of respect and trust is what allows us to grow together, even in times when the world around us feels divided. So in short, the way we make sure every participant feels welcome, represented, and safe is by listening first, acting second, and building a culture where everyone knows their perspective shapes the future of our sport. I couldn't agree more with Nathan's perspective. I think it's about the process. And one of the things you might have heard us talk about at the end of last season, Nathan and I, on an Instagram Live, was making the process transparent. I think his point couldn't be better. We have to keep our sport open. We have to keep this league open and transparent so that everybody can trust the process. You might not agree with how it got done, but you understand that it followed the steps, and therefore we can trust in that process. I hope 3 in the Box can work with our leaders to create a process that is transparent. And when we can't, I hope that we can show you the bravery to say the things that need to be said. Thanks again for joining us for season 2. So glad you're along for the ride.
Like anybody knows me.